In this episode, we're talking about the enchantingly sinister roguelike deck builder, Deck of Haunts. This and more on Indie Game Arcade. Welcome to Indie Game Arcade, a podcast that deep dives into the latest and greatest indie games. My name's Chris. I am your indie game playing dad, your resident sloth impersonator. You can see me sometimes masquerading as our mascot, Sloth Seymour, over on YouTube, which I did a lot this past week. I think we had a video come out literally every single day, which is unusual, but I played a lot of games this past week. I'm very excited to get to talking about all of these things. Some of them are a little more surprising than others, I think. Some of them, not as much. Some of them are definitely in my wheelhouse, and you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. Especially starting with our main topic of this episode, which is Deck of Haunts.
Game start!
So Deck of Haunts was released May 7th, 2025. Developed by Mantis Games. This is an indie studio from Belgium. And like the next couple episodes we do, these are games from Europe. So cool little European indie studios. They made this game. I went down this rabbit hole to check out what else Mantis Games has done, just because this game really, really clicked with me. So I kind of wanted to know, is there other stuff of theirs I should be playing? The only other thing I've seen so far is Journey for Elysium. This is a VR game, but it is like something very up my alley if I did play VR games. I just don't usually, mainly because I don't have a VR headset and I don't feel like spending the money to do it. Anyway, though, it's very dark and brooding, kind of like a walking sim / like puzzle game that looks kind of, I don't know, like steeped in somewhat of Greek mythology maybe, but with looks like a Lovecraftian twist. It sounds weird, but like the visual style makes sense when you're looking at it. Like it is a cool mesh that it just works. And seeing that game, it totally makes sense in the context of their new game Deck of Haunts as far as the visual style and everything. So also published by Dongan and also GameSource Entertainment, two publishers there, both publishers from Japan, strangely enough. I don't know why. For a quick description, this is a roguelike deck building game where you are playing as a malevolent haunted house. And what your objective is to lure humans, like they're kind of like private investigators, like ghost investigator dudes, like picture, what is the guy's name? Like Zach Baggins or something, like those kinds of people. You're like luring them in, and then you are manipulating their fears and draining their essence to make yourself more powerful and like expand and build out, become bigger, basically, like add more rooms to your already haunted house. So if that sounds interesting, like it gets even deeper than that. And I love that. This is a game that, as someone who just absolutely loves the game Monster Train, and I know that sequel is coming really soon, but like this is definitely scratching that itch before that game comes out. I almost wish that this game had come out like a year ago or so. I mean, obviously, it's like, you know, it comes out when the devs can make it come out and everything, but it's like, I almost worry for them a little bit with Monster Train 2 being so close to this launch date. Not to say that this is like the exact same thing. It's not, but there are some very similar characteristics of it, which is like, you know, I'm probably going to be playing this all the way up until Monster Train 2 comes out. And then obviously I want to play some Monster Train 2. I'm just like, am I going to be able to balance playing both? I don't know. I don't know, because I got real deep into Monster Train. Let's talk about the mechanics of this thing, though, and why I'm making such a comparison. When you start out, you start your run, you are given you've got so many rooms. It's a ranch style house. There's no second stories or anything like that. So your haunted ranch style mansion, you start out with this big entryway. There's another room or two, and then you have your heart room, a room with a literal giant monster beating heart. And you have to protect your heart. You have maybe 8 HP or something. I think it was somewhere around there. Maybe it was 10. And that goes down every time somebody enters the heart room, you lose an HP. There are also when I was talking about the paranormal kind of investigator people that will wander into the house and stuff, there are other types of characters or humans, I guess, that can enter your mansion stuff as well. I'm going to talk about some of those in a little bit, but some of them will also, if they get into that room, they will do extra damage as well. So the main goal is to survive 10 nights on this run, as things just escalate and escalate, more and more enemies, powerful enemies, other things that can happen, trying to protect your heart and not running out of HP. So in a way, thinking about that, this is where I'm drawing that comparison to Monster Train. Here you have these rooms as a barrier before people can get to your heart, and you have to protect that heart at all costs. Where on Monster Train, you've got the 3 levels of train cars stacked up on top of each other, and then your pyre car, or chamber or whatever at the very top, which has a limited amount of HP, and you are protecting that at all costs. And it's if somebody gets into there, they can do damage, take out your pyre, and then you lose your run. So this is where I'm really drawing the big comparisons, is the idea of doing what you can to mitigate characters, or these humans in this case, from being able to keep progressing through the house to get to your heart. This is done with a day and a night cycle. So there's different things that you do in both. So during the daytime, this is when you are designing and expanding your mansion by placing rooms. And there's a myriad of ways that you can do this, and different strategies. And I love this part of this game. When you're buying rooms, you are usually buying something cards that will have so many tiles for different types of rooms, such as kitchen, guest bedroom or guest room, and living room. It's things like that. And they have their own colors assigned with them. You can connect them to already existing rooms, either of the same type. And if you do that, I guess I got to talk about essence, huh? Oh man, I feel bad that I didn't bring this up first. To maintain your house from day to day, you need so much essence. As you build your house out, you're going to need more essence to maintain yourself. Otherwise, you will also take damage. There we go. That fits back in with the how you lose thing when I was talking about your heart. Your heart will take damage if you can't maintain the amount of essence you need. I will talk about how you get that essence. And the bigger you make your house, the more essence it's going to require each night. You can build these rooms out. If you attach some of these to a kitchen card to an already existing kitchen, then it's not going to cost any extra essence. Let's say branching it off of that main entryway, and honestly, that is a good thing to do. Then depending on how far it is from your heart room, it's going to cost anywhere between 5 to, I think, 25 extra essence. And that's reoccurring. That adds to the nightly amount that you need. If you attach something right to the heart room, it costs 0. So answering the question, why would you want to do that and not just keep attaching kitchen to kitchen? Well, it's because if you attach a kitchen to the kitchen, you just make the kitchen longer. And when these humans wander into the house, they're only going to stay in one of those rooms for one turn, and then they're going to move on to another room. So if you just keep making a room really large, it's really not going to benefit you as much, aside for like one thing. Some of the cards that you can purchase during the daytime are room enhancement cards, which could add like different kinds of weapons or other abilities on there. And some of them have like a specific amount of surface area that the room needs to be, which are like done in tiles. So like a 4-tile room, a 6-tile room. So if you get one of those that like, let's say one of them's called like an altar room, that maybe you need a room to be 6 tiles to be able to do that. So in that case, it's like, yeah, having an altar room would be beneficial. Then you'll want to build out your 6-tile kitchen and make it, a larger room. But one of the things that you really kind of want to do is to keep like adding, random miscellaneous rooms, all branching off of other rooms, and sort of like construct a maze, honestly, filled with all these traps and twists and everything, whatever you can do, because the more varying rooms for these humans to wander into, it's like the less likely they're going to end up in your heart room. There are other things that you can do to sort of help with that as well, aside from just building rooms. There is like a card that you can buy, and you can only get one of them each day, which is one that lets you pick up and move an already established room. The one thing that sucks is you can't move your heart room. Like, that is stationary. You can, however, move your entry room, but you can't put it like right in front. You have to sort of zigzag it, which is kind of weird. But what I've done is like I'll build something that kind of like branches off of the room, like right before or right after the entry room, and then start like kind of doing a little zigzag pattern there. And then I'll get one of those cards, move that entryway up in front of like where I built sort of that zigzag. And then I know that the humans, or at least most of them, will have to move through like a ton of rooms to even be able to get anywhere near the heart room. And that saves you a bunch of time. The only problem with that is then your essence like skyrockets, and you do need to manage that. But if you know what you're doing with siphoning essence from humans, then, it's not too bad. You can kind of manage that thing. So let's talk about those humans and what you want to do once they get in there. So that happens during the night cycle. They'll enter the mansion, and the majority of the time they will enter through that entryway, which is why I was like, I like to move the entryway if I can and try to make like the longest path possible. The caveat to that is some of them will have like special abilities. And because of that, not all of them will enter through that entryway, and some of them will sneak in through other rooms. And like sometimes it'll be real close to the heart room, like right away. So what you are doing is sort of using cards. So during the nighttime, you will draw a deck of cards. I can't remember like exactly how many you start with like base. I want to say it was like 4 or 5. And like in a Slay the Spire kind of fashion, you're able to like, each of them has like a cost point, like either 1 or 2 to be able to play. And you have a pool starting out of like 3 like AP or energy that you can spend to like play these cards. So what you were doing is playing cards that are like scaring or building tension or draining essence or doing damage to these intruders, like actually injuring them. And there's a lot of different stuff that you can do. Like there's because of the amount of cards that you can unlock through the game, you can actually sort of come up with builds and stuff, especially builds around like shifting hallways to try to like keep people away from the heart room as much as you can, while like building up the traps and stuff in those rooms and letting those kind of take care of everything while you just keep them away. Another one that I like too is just cards that build up as much tension as possible. And then when the tension is at maximum, then you drain them and you got them in like one turn. That is like to say it's not all as easy as that sounds. I mean, like any good like roguelike, every time you come up with a plan, there's always a wrench that the game will throw at you. So there is that. But let's talk about tension, because I've mentioned that a few times. So tension is an effect that you can inflict upon these intruders that will drive them insane faster the more tension they have applied to them. So it's a multiplier. And the reason that you do want to drive them insane is that when you drain them, there's cards that drain them of essence. That is the stuff that, as I talked about earlier, that you need to maintain your house every night. It's also the currency you use to purchase cards to build your house out. So essence is extremely important in multiple ways, and you get it from draining intruders, and at the very end of the night, when you finish the round, by either having driven everyone insane or killed everybody and leaving the house empty. So the more tension that you build by playing like cards that like haunt them, or there's like different rooms and stuff like that. Like there's a room modifier that you can use that's like a room of phobias. So it's like as soon as they enter, it's like they're seeing their worst fears essentially, which I love that. That is a really good one to have. It stacks. And I think the farthest I've gotten it is like a ×5. And some of them only have like, about 10 sanity to drain anyway. As you get a little farther along, some of them are going to be way, way higher than that. So having tension is like absolutely critical to be able to do this and succeed. However, there are like certain kinds of intruders like police, priests, and masons. Oh, I hate those masons that can also enter your mansion, and they have like, they're really tough and they have very specific abilities, and they will do like extra damage if they get into your heart room. That was kind of what I was talking about earlier. So like the first ones that you will encounter are masons. And what sucks about them too is like when they get in, they head straight to your heart room. There's like some other things that I have to talk about with these intruders too. But whereas like everyone else that gets in there, they won't automatically be like going through this maze that you've created and like wandering straight into the heart room. I mean, that is possible, but they're more likely to just wander into any random number of rooms. But the masons just know exactly a route to get there. I don't know why, but they do. They're kind of like some sort of like cult sort of thing, I guess, based off of like, the Masons, the Freemasons or something. Their sanity is very high, but their health is not. So one of the other things that you can do in this game, if, especially in the cases of these, where it is very hard to drive them insane and drain them, it is possible though. And I try to do as much as I can to get as much essence as I can for my house. Sometimes you just got to kill a guy. Sometimes you got to do that. So there are a lot of attack cards as well. There are some like issues that can pop up when you kill somebody in the house though. One, if you kill them, you're not extracting as much essence. The other thing is too, especially if you kill somebody in your mansion really early in like one of the first rooms, if any other intruders come in and then they see that body, instead of like exploring the rest of the house and trying to find that heart room, they're going to hightail it out of there and try to escape. Now that sounds at first like a good thing. Like, okay, well, then I don't have to worry about them. Well, for one, that's like less essence for you. Two, when an intruder escapes, that's going to increase the stats of the next intruders that come in. That's sort of like your punishment for not taking everybody out. So it basically just makes the game more difficult for you if you like the less efficient you are. So it really encourages you to like not have any survivors. And I love that because like, doesn't that feel like a real haunted house? No survivors. You can't get out. And the ones that do get out tell the story. And then it just makes other people more daring and want to get in and investigate. And then, it just makes more sense. They're more equipped. They know what to expect, and they can make their way through it more because they've heard the stories. It honestly makes a lot of sense in the game world. So I just think that's really cool. So as I said before, you're surviving 10 nights of intruders coming through. You finish a run and everything, it's going to unlock more stuff for you, like cards, additional enemies, additional rooms, and other stuff that you can use to your advantage. And it's all procedural generation as well. So like each run and everything that you do, you're going to get different intruder behaviors. You're going to get different cards, all kinds of good stuff. I do really like the idea that the intruders have like the different cards and stuff assigned to them. So like they will behave differently, because otherwise I think things would become way too easy and too predictable. When you first start playing those first several like rounds, they don't really have those. I felt like it was going to be way too easy. And then I think it was like the first Mason came through, and after that they started applying like cards to every intruder that came through, which gave them like all these different abilities. Some of them made them like way harder to get their sanity down. They would be more resistant to certain things like tension. They'd be sneaking through like the windows instead of like coming in through that front door. That stuff was very fun. Those are the things I like in roguelikes like this and Monster Train, where it's kind of like you can try your best to make a plan and think, this plan I have in mind, this build I want to do, it should work. And it's the idea of the game throwing in all of these random variables and stuff like that, that no matter what, keeps you on your toes. Even if you think you can find like a game-breaking build, a game that doesn't let you do that because of the amount of randomness that can take place, that's fantastic. So I love that. So far, have not found anything game-breaking yet. That isn't to say there isn't something in there, but who knows? Let's talk about how this thing looks, though. This is a top-down perspective as you're doing this, kind of a Art Deco style in a way. The house itself, like I think the game is supposed to take place in America in like the 70s or something. But anyway, like the actual like artwork and everything, kind of dark, kind of gothic, looks really good. I'm a big fan of that. Soundtrack, very atmospheric and ambient, but lots of good sound effects, especially for a haunted house. If I have a favorite room though, I don't know why, I just like, you get this early on, but I love the bell tower. I think just because I like seeing the little ghost witch floating around doing her thing. Just like, she's just having a good time. And I appreciate that. Plus that card where you can just kind of drop the bell on everybody, especially if you get like a bunch of tough dudes in there. Like if you get a thing of stonemasons in there, you can just take them out right away with that card. It literally drops a bell and does 100 damage to that room. And like most of the health, like the highest health, at least in the first like run or something you'll play, I don't think it's over like 20 something. So it's such overkill. It's hilarious in that way though. I love that. Obviously, the way I'm talking about this, you can tell I had a really good time with this. I have already sunk several hours into this game, and I see myself sinking way more in. I honestly think that this is going to be a permanent install on my Steam Deck, where Monster Train became kind of a comfort game for me for a long time. Again, this has so many similarities in the mechanics while being completely unique with its theme. Plus, there's that appeal because it's horror that sticks with me as well. Yeah, this is going to be one that I'm going to be sticking with for quite a long time. I was asking, I think last week, like, when am I going to be done with Blueprints? I actually stopped playing Blueprints for several days just so I could keep playing this game. So that'll tell you like how much I enjoyed this one. Obviously, I recommend this game. If you like Monster Train or games of that ilk, I know that sequel comes out soon, but like, I think you should really try this out. If you want something different, especially, this is perfect. I think you should give it a shot.
Power up!
If you're enjoying this episode so far, do us a favor. Throw us a like, a follow, share the episode of the podcast with folks who love indie games so we can get more of these game recommendations out there, and support some of the indie game devs that are working so hard to give us all these things for us to enjoy. We've also got our YouTube channel at youtube.com/nerdsloth, like I was talking about earlier, where you can catch us playing more indie games or check out some of our game recommendation series. We have a bunch of top 5 videos. We've got a top 10 video up there for indie game recommendations. I think the latest one, well, the one that just came out is one that's highlighting indie devs and studios from Mexico. And we also have a top 10 list for folks that love blueprints. Like, what other games are out there that are like blueprints that you guys might like? Go check that video out. It's really good. And share those videos because honestly, we believe there is an indie game out there for everyone.
Combo!
Time to talk about other indie games I've been playing this week. There's been a lot. There's one in particular that I would like to talk about this episode. This is the horror at Highrook, which came out on May 1st. The reason I want to talk about this is because, like, in theme, it is very similar to Deck of Haunts as far as like the gothic psychological horror kind of vibe to everything. But anyway, horror at Highrook, this is very much like a digital board game, almost like in the way of something like the Arkham horror style games. If those were digital games, there might be digital versions of those. I don't know. If there are, I should play those. Anyway, the only one I think I've ever played was like Eldritch Horror. Was that the name of the game? God damn. Now I don't remember. One of those. I've got one of them. It takes a long time to play, but it's great. It has a very gothic narrative that wades into occult and Eldritch style horror. So, makes sense. You are playing a team of occult investigators that are probing this mystery, the disappearance of the Acheron family. So looking at the board, your characters are cards and each of them have specific skills assigned to them. Some of them overlap, like some of them have some of the same skills, but they will each have skills that some of the others also don't have. You also have action cards that you can combine with your character cards. They can use them in specific rooms on the board, like the scholar can decipher books in the study, or the thug can use binoculars on the grounds to scout and just kind of like look around. The result of doing those means more cards for you to use as you try to poke and prod this mansion for clues. Each one of them kind of leads you deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. So let's say the scholar tries to decipher this book. That's like this action that you use. And once he is finished, all of a sudden you end up with a note that he finds and another book. And this book, maybe as you try to decipher that, gives you part of like a sigil and a note that leads you to something that will help you unlock a hidden room. Because when you first start out, not all of these rooms are available to you. You have so many and the rest are locked. And by locked, they're basically kind of like fog of war, sort of like shaded over with this like dark cloud. And you have to do certain things, like find certain things by performing some of these actions, put 2 and 2 together to be able to unlock these different rooms and areas to be able to use them. The tougher part of this game is balancing hunger, fatigue, sanity, because everything is on a timer. This is an ongoing day and night cycle, and you have to search for food. Like if your guys are getting hungry and then they start starving and then start losing health because of that, like you don't have food readily available and there isn't a guarantee that you're going to find food. So I had to have my thug guy almost constantly on the grounds searching for game to track, and then just constantly also having somebody in the kitchen like cooking that food, because like only one person is able to like search for food at once. One person can only cook at once. One person can only eat at once. One person can only sleep at once, because it's only like one person can fit into the character slot in each room with one item in that action slot in each room. That makes things very difficult. I think it wouldn't be as difficult if the I feel like the day and night timer is pretty short. At least I would say shorter than I would have expected for a game like this, where there are so many things to consider and think about. But there is a pause and play button towards the top right. So it's like if you really need to just stop and think through something, you can always pause time for a minute and think through what your next move is going to be. You know, still, like that time pressure is really, really what gets to you in this game, I think, more than anything else. Like, to me, that seemed to be the most difficult aspect. Like, I enjoyed the premise and the mechanics. It was just that time crunch felt a little overly harsh for me. I found myself many times just doing actions to keep everyone afloat, which isn't the most fun use of my time. Other times, though, there were a few where I just didn't know where to focus. Like, I didn't know what thread to pull on. I would keep sending my dudes back to, like, okay, I've had the scholar using the library codex in the study so many times, or the library or whatever, and just I hadn't been moving forward with anything, like enough research that was moving the plot along. So I was kind of like, I don't know what I should be doing. And then it was like, maybe the fifth time or something, for whatever reason, like something popped up and I was like, oh shit, okay, this is new. And then that led me to somewhere else. So it's kind of like, I don't know if maybe there needs to be like a slight bit more balance with, like, I don't know if it's the RNG or luck or whatever kind of hidden stat in there. I'm not sure. Or at least if I were to give feedback or something on this, which maybe I should send some feedback. Maybe they'd appreciate that. I don't know. I would maybe adjust that and adjust like that a little bit of the time on that day-night cycle. With all of that said, it was still a really interesting game, like really cool. I'm very into the story of the game. That becomes more and more interesting the more you poke and prod. And the more you get answered, the more new questions you have, especially once you uncover the chapel. Holy crap. That will lead you through a rabbit hole that, well, you know what? If you want to go watch my playthrough, the demo, you'll understand. Very, very cool, though. And I wish all the best for this team. One more I want to talk about real quick, because we're doing all horror stuff, apparently. Again, this is Midnight Special. Midnight Special released on May 8th, 2025. This is a point-and-click survival horror game set in the 80s where you are playing as this woman, Sarah, who is a babysitter for these kids named John and Ellie over at this creepy old mansion called Boyd Manor. And while you're there, like, you're trying to get the kids to go to bed, and then the power goes out and nightmarish things ensue and just tend to escalate from there. I've got mixed feelings on this one. I think you can kind of tell I had some mixed feelings on horror at Highrook, but I definitely have some mixed feelings on this one. I would say even more so. To me personally, as someone that has played a lot of point and clicks, the mechanics felt really clunky to me. From the UI not being extremely user-friendly to the point and click portion itself, I experienced a few hiccups. That's another Let's Play you guys can go see, at least at the demo and everything, where things weren't really aligning correctly or like clipping in certain ways, like overlapping and stuff, which made things a little bit difficult here and there. However, the look and feel of this game is like none other. It is absolutely astounding. The 16-bit retro look, it looks 100% like a game, like a point-and-click game that could have come out of the 90s, like early 90s and it's got this like CRT filter over it. It looks so good, and it gives me this weird nostalgia for a game that I never played before, but I love it. The imagery when something creepy happens is just so good. Plus, there's just a constant sense of creeping dread that just builds and builds and builds in the best way. And even when you see something and recognize that as like a horror fan, like, oh, I'm sure this thing is going to happen, it just kind of like lingers for a while. Like, when you expect it to happen, it doesn't happen. And then it's like, you might forget about it for just a little bit, and then it'll happen. And you're not disappointed that you like saw it coming. You're just satisfied at that point that it did happen, because it's like usually some sort of homage or something. Like there's a very specific thing in a basement that like I knew this specific thing was going to come alive, and then it didn't. And then I just kind of carried on, and then something else happened, and I was like, oh God. And then as I was trying to get away from that other thing, then the thing came alive and did the exact thing I thought it was going to do. It made me so happy to see. I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil it, because the horror fans that love Evil Dead, you'll understand when you see it, and you'll be satisfied as well. Overall, I'd say really, really cool looking game. Great premise. Really good story so far. The demo for it ends on a note I did not expect, and I have no idea where that story is going yet. So like, I'm so interested. I do want to play more. Like, my hangups aside, I want to know where this story goes. I need to know where this story goes. I think just maybe a little bit of tightening up on those mechanics, and this game would be absolutely excellent, at least for someone like me. Go look up some images of this. Go to the Steam page. Look at the trailer. Look at those screenshots. If you played this, Bob's roommate, guys, whoo, if you know, you know. They talk a lot about paying homage to like Giallo. I see it maybe a little bit. I feel like that's somewhat of a stretch. I don't know. I mean, this isn't Giallo, but like I know Black Christmas paid homage to Giallo films. There's definitely a moment in there that I was feeling very Black Christmas in a very specific way. Overall, like I can tell this was something done by old school horror fans. And I gotta say, like, aside from 80s slashers and like the ridiculousness of 80s style horror films, the Italian horror, the Giallo type stuff is my next favorite. So yeah, I can see it maybe to an extent. I think people that like that kind of horror will enjoy this, but it's definitely not a verbatim comparison. I think like the Steam page sort of makes it sound like, but you know, there's a lot more game to it that I haven't seen yet.
Final round!
As far as upcoming indie games I'm excited about, I am very excited to check out Rhythm Witch Beat Death. This looks like, and now I could be wrong, but we'll find out when it comes out, which is, wait, is it out now? I don't have anything in front of me to be able to pull it up. Maybe it's out. I don't know. Anyway, Rhythm Witch Beat Death. This looks like a Vampire Survivors meets Crypt of the Necrodancer. If that is what this game is going to be, that is something I absolutely have to play. I love both of those games. So this seems like something right up my alley, especially with as many hours of my life that have been lost to Vampire Survivors and also Rogue Genesia now. That's something in me that I guess just can't be satisfied. I need to be able to keep playing more of these games. Adding music into it is just going to make it all the more sweeter. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this. I also really like the artwork of this too. It looks kind of cute. I like cute stuff. The other one I'm looking forward to right now is Into the Restless Ruins. This is a roguelike deck builder and dungeon crawler with kind of like a pixel art style that reminds me a little bit of the Kingdom series. If you've ever played something like Kingdom New Lands, Kingdom Two Crowns, just Kingdom, Kingdom 80s, which was short but fun. So yeah, like it looks really cool. You're going through dungeons and everything, but you're using like a card deck for, it looks like, for your actions and everything. So I like that idea. We'll see how that goes. But that one, again, that one's May 15th. I actually have that date down here for once. Very, very cool. Lots of good games coming out. Lots of good games. Like, this has been a great year for games already. We're just partly into the second quarter, which is crazy. Crazy. There's so much more of this year left to go.
Game over.
If you had a good time listening to this episode, stick around for the bumper. so you can learn about how you can support the show and all the things we do here at Sloth Creative. It'll tell you where all of our social media, all that stuff is. You can also check out the show notes for our link tree. That'll take you to our social media, Discord, subreddit, merch store. Get in touch with us, let us know what indie games you're playing, and help us elevate these games so we can help support indie developers. But that's game over for me. My name is Chris, and I will continue on the next episode.
Continue.
Indie Game Arcade is recorded and produced by Sloth Creative. If you're looking for more gaming content, head over to youtube.com/nerdsloth for indie game let's plays and recommendations. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/nerdsloth, where you can select a pledge and receive access to hundreds of hours of bonus content from everything at Sloth Creative. If you're an indie game developer and would like us to review your game or explore other opportunities, send an email to nerdslothcreative@gmail.com with the subject line Indie Game Arcade. Thanks for listening, and keep supporting indie game devs.